Good morning, afternoon, or evening, whatever time you are tuning into this broadcast. This is Ishues, Coach Ish, whatever you want to call me. And let's talk some boxing. So, December the 24th, I think it was. Yeah, December the 24th, 23rd, 24th. Whatever day, that was the day of redemption, which was the card that featured Anthony Joshua, Deontay Wilder, Daniel Dubois, Jarrell Miller, and quiet as kept, Dimitri Bivol. But I leave out Dimitri Bivol because the subject matter of this video is the heavyweight division. Now, that day was called the Day of Reckoning. What it should have been called was the day the heavyweight division died. In fact, let's take a sip and have a moment of silence. For the heavyweight division of boxing. The heavyweight division is dead. It's dead. And it's not even dead. It's not on a decline. It's not going through a rough patch. It's dead. Boxing has changed. We have witnessed in 2023 the death of the heavyweight division and the rise of celebrity boxing. What used to be called exhibition boxing has now become a legitimate brand of boxing. Is at this point is just as legitimate and viable as female boxing. If you can't call female boxing a novelty, you can't call celebrity boxing a novelty. Not no more. Shout out to Jake Paul. Right? So in 2023, we have witnessed the rise of celebrity boxing and the death of heavyweight boxing. Heavyweight boxing is dead. 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 I'm gonna tell you why. First of all, let me just throw out my top 10 heavyweights of all time. Okay, because it's relevant to this conversation. My top 10 heavyweights of all time consist of Mike Tyson. He's rounding out the 10 largely because he ain't really beat nobody. One of my favorites, if I'm making a favorite list, he's way higher than 10. But top 10 heavyweights of all time, Mike Tyson. Go up to 9 to the person who beat him. One of the people who beat him, which is Evander Holyfield. Now, Mike Tyson had already been beat prior to Evander Holyfield, but Evander Holyfield beat him soundly to the point where Mike Tyson didn't have no way out but to bite his ear. One of the most infamous moments in boxing history. So, and then on top of that, Evander Holyfield, what he accomplished in his career that I don't want to elongate this video by going into. Those who know, know. Those who don't, look it up. So, top 10 of all time, Evander Holyfield. Right? As I make this list, after I make this list, I'm going to show you something. Rounding out that to number 8 is the person who beat him. Or one of the people who beat him. Which is Lennox Lewis. Well, Lennox Lewis, although have losses on his career, has beat every person that he's faced. And that list consists of some of the greatest fighters in boxing. He beat some people that if they were fighting in the heavyweight division right now would reign supreme. No question. Right? Some of the people that Lennox Lewis beat. Then after that, one of my personal favorites at number 7 is Sonny Liston, who some people say Mike Tyson was the most feared man in boxing. No, he wasn't. It was Sonny Liston. To the casuals, Mike Tyson may have been. There's a lot of fighters, Evander Holyfield being one of them, Lennox Lewis being one of them, who knew from the gate, he can't beat me. Lennox Lewis has never been afraid. The people who beat Mike Tyson have never been afraid of Mike Tyson. Just so happened that Mike Tyson was such a commodity and a product that they always matched him up with people who he gonna win the fight at the press conference before even going in the ring. He didn't have many challenges, and that's why when he fought actual challenges who he had already ran into in the amateurs and, who gave him work. Lennox Lewis gave Mike Tyson work as an amateur. Mike Tyson knew what he was going up against with Evander Holyfield. So people, diehard Mike Tyson fans like, oh, if this would have or that wouldn't have, he would have. No, he wouldn't. No, he wouldn't. He wouldn't beat Evander Holyfield at no point. Period. He wouldn't have beat Lennox Lewis at no point. And the people who knew that. That's why it took so long to make those matchups. Because Mike Tyson was too much of a commodity. He was too marketable. Despite all the stuff he was going through, and part of the stuff he was going through was part of his lure. To put him against someone who they already knew since they were amateurs, he can't beat Lennox Lewis. He couldn't beat Lennox Lewis in the amateurs. They sparred in the amateurs, as amateurs. They didn't fight as amateurs. They sparred as amateurs, though. That's well known. You know what I'm saying? And I remember as a kid, because I was such a diehard Mike Tyson fan, I remember my uncles and my cousins and the one older than me used to say this stuff all the time. But I didn't want to hear it. Like, nah, Mike Tyson, because I was a huge Mike Tyson fan. Had the video games, had the shirts, had the Mike. I was a huge Mike Tyson fan. I cried when he lost to Buster Douglas. It took me years to face the reality that he actually lost. I had to mature into an adult to come to the realization that he actually lost. Regardless of why the reason was, he got beat. And even if you look at it from a strategic, Buster Douglas employed a strategy that would beat what Mike Tyson brought to the table. He fought him in a way nobody ever fought him. Just as far as boxing is concerned. He had the tools and everything. He had a lot going that helped him pull that off. Could Mike Tyson have beat him? Of course. Did he knock him out in the 8th round and Buster Douglas had a long count? Yeah, I agree with that. But he was still getting beat before that. And he got beat after that. You know what I'm saying? So, let's see. Pull my list back up. All right. So, say all that to say, Sonny Liston was really feared by everyone except one skinny dude from Kentucky. Who most people called a dancer at the time. Sonny Liston was really that guy. If Mike Tyson is a student of the game. You ask Mike Tyson, who is the most feared fighter in boxing? He's going to scratch his head for a minute because there's a couple people that can fill that spot. Then he's going to say, Sonny Liston. He already had the reputation as a killer outside the ring. Worked for the mob strongman. Didn't he have a body in the ring too? Yeah, he had a body in the ring. Back then, there was a lot of dudes catching bodies in the ring. He got a body in the ring, if I'm not mistaken. But I know he had the reputation of having a body outside the ring, because he was a mafia strongman. So when he walked in, it was like, oh, this dude could actually kill you, man. People feared Sonny Liston, man, and for good reason. Sonny Liston had a punch with either hand that could knock you off your feet. Sonny Liston had a hook with either hand that could knock you clean off your feet. He was menacing. He was terrifying. And he hit like a mule. So much so that, if I'm not mistaken, I think he killed somebody in the ring. So, Sonny Liston is my number 7. Smoking Joe Frazier is my number 6. George Foreman, for a number of reasons. Either version of George Foreman. Let's think about George Foreman. There's 2 versions of George Foreman. Either version of George Foreman rounds out my number 6. Not my number 6, number 5. Then I put Rocky Marciano on number 4. Retired undefeated. Some people question his resume. But, I mean, yeah. Those who know. The Rock was The Rock. Right? Joe Louis, my number 3. Muhammad Ali is my number 2. Right? Would normally be my number 1 if I'm talking favorites. Now, if I'm talking favorites, Ali is my number 1, hands down. And that's, just a broad stroke real quick because of how he started his career, what he was at the start of his career. Ali at the start of his career, no one could beat Ali at the start of his career. Nobody. I'll put Ali before Vietnam against anyone in the history of the sport, even Jack Johnson. He was something special. He was something no one had ever seen before and no one has ever seen since. It almost doesn't look real watching Ali, and it's limited footage. But when you look at the footage and you know what you're looking at, watching Ali in his prime was like watching Bruce Lee. Like Bruce Lee footage holds up today. There are martial artists today that can't do what we watch Bruce do and with inferior camera work. Just imagine if you had Bruce Lee in his prime and you had the type of cameras and stuff that you have today, where you could really see how fast he really was. That was Ali before Vietnam. After Vietnam, he became a different fighter because he lost some of his gifts because he spent so much time off and he aged. He came back with a different level of dominance, doing something different than he did in the beginning of his career. He figured out another way to be just as dominant without the same physical attributes and pulled off some of the greatest wins ever, right? So, and that's not just that, but his stance against Vietnam, the stuff he did, activism, all that. Ali is my favorite fighter of all time. But when I'm talking about greatest heavyweights, he's my number 2, Muhammad Ali. Number 1, Jack Johnson. I don't think nobody could beat Jack Johnson in his prime. Nobody. You talking about a dude who used to fight for like 8 hours straight. I mean, that's it. Like, we ain't even got to talk about nothing else. I don't even know what that looks like. 50, 60 rounds. Fighting. Not sparring. Not, oh, we're taking it easy. We're trying to work on stuff. No. Fighting. Whoever does not get up no more is the winner. He fought in that era. Can you imagine the skill set you have to have the record that he had, fighting the type of fights that he fought? You can't even fathom it because there's no footage. We, been conditioned to process things we see, our footage or whatever. You can't even imagine that. So Jack Johnson's my number 1. Now, what is the common theme of all of those fighters? Number 1, I can't even say they're all African American because they're not. Majority are, but there have been some great American heavyweights. Shout out to Tommy Morrison. You know what I'm saying? And shout out to, in fact, one that should have made my list, I'll give him honorable mention, is Jack Dempsey. Jack Dempsey was the first real superstar boxer. You know what I'm saying? First $1 million gate was Jack Dempsey. You know what I'm saying? So there's been others. You know what I'm saying? But they're all American heavyweights. They're American. So the whole time that boxing has enjoyed these great eras, there's always been an American heavyweight sitting at the top of boxing. You know what I'm saying? It went from Jack Dempsey, Jack Johnson to Jack Dempsey to, just off the top of my head, I could get something wrong, don't kill me in the comments. Oh man, what? How can I not put Joe Louis on my list? Joe Louis, honorable mention to Joe Louis. He really should be on my list. I need to knock somebody off of Joe Louis, right? But Joe Louis, Sonny Liston, Ali, George Foreman for a bit. Then it was, Lennox. Another honorable mention to Larry Holmes, and it was Larry Holmes for a bit. You know what I'm saying? The Eastern Assassin. Then it was, Lennox Lewis. You know what I'm saying? It was Tyson for a bit. Lennox Lewis. Evander Holyfield right there in the mix. You know what I mean? So, yeah, but the thing that is different, that was different then, this is what I tell people. The thing that was different then that don't exist now is you don't have athletes who aspire to box. You don't have American... See, the time where all of those fighters that I named was coming up, one of the most prosperous athletic activities that you could participate in at the time was, especially for big athletes, was being the heavyweight champion of the world. Boxing, period. But being the heavyweight champion of the world meant there was a time where Michael Jordan can be in the room, and if Mike Tyson walks in the room, everyone will go over there where Mike Tyson is. This was before Jordan's prime and Mike's fall off. But there was a time where if the heavyweight champ of the world walked in the room, it doesn't matter if there's the best quarterback is in the room or the best basketball players in the room, the media is going to flock to the heavyweight champion of the world. Just the prestige that title carries does not exist anymore. There was a time when the prestige of being the heavyweight champion of the world was unlike being an NBA champion or an NFL champion or even a MLB, World Series winner. Being a heavyweight champion of the world stood above all of that during the era with all of those fighters that I mentioned. All of those fighters that I mentioned boxed before they did anything else. Mike Tyson, of course, was a criminal, but he was a juvenile. From juvenile, that's all they've ever done was box. They didn't play basketball. They didn't play football. Boxing was not a second choice. Boxing was a first choice. Because a lot of them grew up in conditions where the only chance that you had, especially for black folks, that's why that list is dominated by black fighters. Because as a black man, just to even get your respect in this world as an athlete, because you play basketball, you ain't going to get the same amount of respect unless you Kareem. Somebody that stands out on that level and during that era, somebody like that, Magic Johnson or whatever the case may be. But just as a basketball player, like, nah. You know what I'm saying? But as the heavyweight champion of the world, that smashed all boundaries. Jack Johnson used to run around with white girls at a time where you can't even imagine the level of racism that used to exist. This nigga was notorious for running around with white girls. Black as hell. That nigga was black, blue black. Big old black African nigga. Unmarketable black African nigga. Running around with white chicks. You know what I'm saying? At a time where regular black niggas was getting hung for that. Regular black niggas was getting hung and lynched for even looking at or whistling at or catcalling a white girl. This nigga's running around with multiple white girls, bro. Think about that. Think about how bad you gotta be. Think about how bad you gotta be with these that you are overcoming societal norms. That's why Jack Johnson's my number one. He was different. Even though go back to, he was different. And what nobody, what boxing come down to at the end of the day is who's the better man. When two people stepping in the ring, who's the better man? Yeah, I got skills and I train and I'm in shape and all that kind of stuff. But what it ultimately comes down to is who's the better man. That's why I tell people all the time, like, you in boxing, you got to overcome you. If you overcome you, your opponent's easy. None of them would be a better man than Jack Johnson. Put them all in their prime. The best they've ever been? Nigga, ain't none of them beating. I could give Ali a chance to dance around all night and pepper him, hit him, and win on points. Just do that all night. If he don't wear it down, which, in the beginning, he had unreal, you know what I'm saying? I feel like after a while of Ali hitting him and him not hitting him back, I feel like, a lot of things that could happen with that, you know what I'm saying? Plus Ali did crack, but I don't see nobody else getting in the ring with Jack Johnson and surviving. You know what I'm saying? So, but that's what it meant to be the heavyweight champion of the world. That shit don't exist no more. No one cares about the heavyweight champion of the world. No one cares. No one cares. Deontay Wilder went on a 40-fight knockout spree. No one cared. I remember walking down the street asking people, just randomly, you know who the heavyweight champion of the world is? Everybody always say the same thing. Man, I haven't kept up with boxing since Mike Tyson. Everybody been saying the same thing. That's why he's on my number 10, even though if he didn't have the cultural impact that he had, Mike Tyson, looking at his record alone, he wouldn't even be in my, no, he wouldn't even, no. You know what I'm saying? But it's because of Mike Tyson's impact and the mystique about what he could have been because he was so good early in his career with Custom Model. But the allure of of the heavyweight champion of the world died with Mike Tyson. Okay, so all of these fighters that we've been talking about, what have we been talking about? We didn't mention Vladimir Klitschko, who had one of the longest runs in heavyweight history. His run was incredibly boring, partially because of the fact that the second best heavyweight in the world was his brother, and they would never fight each other. So you got his brother beating up on people, he's beating up on people, they sharing each other's wins. Number 1 and number 2, best heavyweights in the world, depending on the night. Because at one point, Vitali was better than Vladimir. Vladimir got with Emmanuel Stewart, and then he became better than Vitali. But it was always 1A, 1B. So that era of heavyweight boxing was incredibly boring. Incredibly boring. You know what I'm saying? But I didn't mention Vitali because even during his reign, no kids aspired to be heavyweight champion of the world because of Vladimir Vitali. Not in this country. That's what we're talking about. Not in this country. He was boring. 1, 2, hold. All night long. All night long. That's how you shadow box. Effective. I'm not going to disrespect and say he had no skill, but I mean he was good at what he did, and he beat people up and got some wins over some people. You know what I'm saying? The elitism, the elite talent in the heavyweight division kind of went away with Lennox Lewis. You know what I'm saying? He didn't do that against Riddick Bowe. He didn't do that against Lennox Lewis. He didn't do that against, you know what I'm saying, Mike Tyson in his prime. You know what I'm saying? He didn't do that against, he got some wins, but just, his era was boring. His era was boring, right? So then, after the who closes out the Klitschko era? Anthony Joshua. Well, really Tyson Fury. Really Tyson Fury. But a lot of people like to sweep Tyson Fury's win under the rug in favor of Anthony Joshua's win because he was the golden boy, right? And to his credit, he's back on top again, but which I'm gonna get to that point in a minute. But you had these new cast of characters come in. You had Anthony Joshua now is in the mix, and you have Deontay Wilder, and you have Dillian White, and you have these big, larger than life boxing characters. Dillian White, the English bad boy, who's the antithesis of Anthony Joshua, who's the Prince of England. You know what I'm saying? Tyson Fury, the gypsy bad guy, insane size and ability, and you know what I'm saying? You got Deontay Wilder, this big Alabama African, knocking people out one punch and walking away. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, man. You know what I'm saying? Andy Ruiz, this little short, fat Mexican kid, with hands of lightning. You know what I mean? But all of them, every last one of them, have on some level been exposed as being a fraud. What we were sold is not what we saw. The mystique was broken. Because for those fighters that I mentioned, their marketing was better than their abilities. What they told us they were didn't match up to what we actually saw. When you actually do the things that make you great, is getting in there with other fighters that are great on a regular basis. We mentioned Joe Frazier. How many? Joe Frazier got beat by, well, he beat Ali too, but he got beat by Ali and Foreman. You couldn't even use that same formula today. You know what I'm saying? Holyfield got beat by everybody. Mike Tyson got beat by everybody. I ain't gonna say everybody, but all of the greats. All of the ones that you would mention as one of the greats. Yeah, but even in his losses, the way he fought is like, you don't have that same dynamic today. So all of these fighters, they were selling us on their greatness before they actually achieved greatness by getting in there and fighting other great fighters. They try to sell us Anthony Joshua beating Klitschko, which I'm still not convinced of. I'm still not convinced he really beat Klitschko. I think part of that was Klitschko was old, and the other part was Klitschko took a dive. Sorry. Klitschko lost that fight on his feet. Ref stopped it on his feet. He dropped Anthony Joshua, though. He dropped him. Boop, on the floor. They stopped that Klitschko fight with Klitschko still on his feet. With a fighter of that caliber that we've watched for decades do what he do, you don't stop that fight on his feet. He got to be on his back. Got to be. We talking about Vladimir Klitschko here. He got to be on his back. Almost not breathing. Before we not give him we talking about one of the greatest fighters ever in the history of the sport. We going to stop the fight on his feet? Really? Come on, man. But before that, Tyson Fury had already beat him. Now, I think he would have beat Tyson Fury in the rematch. But that's the point where Tyson Fury started showing that he was a fraud. Because he weaseled his way out of that fight. I don't care what nobody's saying. That's a long explanation. We could do that later. But he weaseled his way out that fight. Right? So that's when he started showing he was a fraud. So then we have Anthony Joshua, who is everybody expects to be the new face of boxing. You remember there was a point where they was showing Anthony Joshua, look, he's more popular than Floyd Mayweather. Remember the clip where Anthony Joshua standing next to Floyd Mayweather and all of the chicks are going to Anthony Joshua? And Floyd Mayweather was getting mad. You know what I'm saying? But that's what it's supposed to be. You know what I'm saying? Floyd Mayweather is not supposed to be a bigger fighter or a bigger fighter in the sport than the heavyweight champion of the world. And this is a British heavyweight champion in Anthony Joshua. Imagine if Anthony Joshua had all of those same qualities, but he was American. Good old-fashioned American boy, handsome, pretty, charming, all that. And knocking people the fuck out. Same skill set, everything. But he was American. Woo! Because what's the pattern? American heavyweights. When boxing has been at its most prevalent, there has been an American heavyweight sitting at the top of the sport. Floyd Mayweather era was good for him, not good for everybody else. Why? Because there wasn't there wasn't an American heavyweight bigger than Floyd Mayweather. What I say, it was Anthony Joshua and Floyd Mayweather standing next to each other. Right? So then along comes Deontay Wilder, who most people look at and say, yeah, he started really, really late. And he's really underskilled. But man, he got a right hand. we ain't never seen before. We ain't never seen nobody hit people and just, I mean, there's stories of fighters who, hit like that or whatever the case may be, but there's very little footage. You got to go back to George Foreman and them dudes or whatever to see somebody who hit like Deontay Wilder. There ain't been a lot of fighters since George Foreman and them dudes who hit like this big black Alabama kid. This skinny Alabama kid who's knocking out these big giants and he ain't got no skill. But then what happened? He started showing he was a fraud. Started believing his own hype, started getting too big for his britches, and a lot of things that endeared people to Deontay Wilder, which was his very, because he started late, he understood that he got to keep developing. Then it came to a point where he stopped developing and just started relying on the fact that if he hits you, you're going to fall. You know what I'm saying? Attitude, his arrogance, all that kind of stuff got in the way. He started to show. Then when he fought Tyson Fury, he got exposed as being a fraud. Big Baby Miller. I'm gonna do a whole video by itself on Big Baby Miller. Big Baby Miller is another one that, again, he's an American heavyweight from Brooklyn. Just the rich history of American heavyweights fighters from Brooklyn, period. But you got Mike Tyson and Shannon Briggs from Brooklyn. So you already fall in line with a rich legacy, rich heritage, rich lineage. It's like coming from a good family or a family of boxers. Oh, you're a notable heavyweight making noise that's from Brooklyn. You automatically got Zab Judah, Mike Tyson, and Shannon Briggs who precede you. You part of the squad. You part of the legacy. You part of the line. That automatically gives you certain benefits. He actually had another chance. If he would have stopped Daniel Dubois and he came out, I'm Muslim, I took Shahada, alhamdulillah, you know what I'm saying? Projected this new image of this Muslim family man. I'm not about the nonsense. I'm just strictly about business. Tighten up myself. The boy can box. For somebody his size, the boy can box. This could have been a second shot for him. Not just a second shot for him, but a second shot for him to ascend to being top dog. Heavyweight champion of the world. I beat Wilder. I beat Joshua. I beat Fury. I beat Usyk. I was a drug cheat. I found God. I cleaned up my life. I got disciplined. I got on my square. And now I fall in line in the rich history of Brooklyn American heavyweights. You know what I'm saying? Blew it. Wilder. Blew it. His other chance. Oh, you fight Parker, beat Parker. Blew it. Not just the fact that you lost, how you lost. You embarrassed every single Deontay Wilder fan with that performance. It's not, regardless of whether you embarrassed every single. If you were not embarrassed by that performance, you are not a Deontay Wilder fan. You embarrassed every single Deontay Wilder fan with that performance. I don't think there's any way to redeem from that performance. I don't think there's any way. No disrespect to Joseph Parker. But when you have Andy Ruiz, who arguably beat him, Joe Joyce, who stopped him, Anthony Joshua, who beat him twice, and on top of that, no notable wins on that level, well, a few, but not really. Besides you. You became the crown jewel in his crown. Not just because he beat you, but he beat the shit out of you. He washed you. Fraud. And I could keep going, But those two, Big Baby, Deontay Wilder, were both American heavyweights. American heavyweights who have become the laughingstock of boxing. Yeah, we have Anthony Joshua who ascended back to the throne because Tyson Fury, who's pretty much always been a grifter, and who, again, most people expose as a fraud way back in the Klitschko fight. You know? When he weaseled his way out of that fight. Long story, I ain't gonna get to it right now. Right? So you have Anthony Joshua, you have Tyson Fury, you have Usyk, okay, Evander Holyfield came up to heavyweight at a time where there were great heavyweights fighting, jumped in the mix, and was beating great heavyweights the fuck up and knocking them out. That's not the same story as Usyk. Usyk, questionable win against Dubois, right? Who had already been stopped and this and that, whatever. And plus, we're nowhere near that era. There's no all these great heavyweights. There's heavyweights who people are trying to sell as this, that, and the third by comparing them to fighters in that era. But fighters in that era, we saw for ourselves. Even the fighters who are not mentioned, there's a whole bunch of heavyweight fighters that I did not mention that would clean the board this era. You know what I'm saying? The Bone Crusher Smiths and the yeah. Ray Mercers and, you know, Floyd Pattersons. You know what I'm saying? The Mongoose. You know what I mean? That I didn't mention that would run the table on this era of heavyweight. No question. So he came in during that era. Usyk came up from a lower weight, same as Evander Holyfield, and just, the jury's still out. So there are no, you know, and then, you know, the other big baby, Jarrell Anderson, you know, I'm gonna touch on him real quick. Good talent. I didn't say great, good talent. Wrong mindset. So as much as they try to, he's the hope of American heavyweight boxing, if that's it, then we in trouble. Cause he don't even want it. He said that openly on film. He don't want it. He don't want it. He doesn't have what it takes to be what he needs to be in order to revive heavyweight boxing. The division, yeah, it's going to exist. But for it to exist, it's like somebody being brain dead. Your organs still function and everything, but you for your purpose, which is, you know, walking this earth and doing things and, you know what I'm saying? Fulfilling your purpose actively every day. You just laying in the bed. Your organs are still going, but you got machines breathing for you. You know, you alive, but you kind of not. That's the same thing as boxing, to the point where it's like, we might have to pull the plug. That's the same thing with heavyweight boxing. You know what I'm saying? It's like, this is what's left. Tyson Fury, Alexander Usyk, and Anthony Joshua. So what do we have to look forward to? Tyson Fury beating Usyk, and then Tyson Fury versus Joshua? Or Usyk beating Fury, and then Usyk versus Joshua for a third time? You already beat him twice. So, R.I.P. to the heavyweight division of boxing. I think it's dead. And boxing has to reformulate, you know what I'm saying, around. I think the welterweight division is the new heavyweight division. Now, if you the top dog at welterweight, it's going to eventually mean what it used to mean to be the top dog at heavyweight. Let me know what you think. Like and subscribe, comment, share. Let's talk about it. All right? Peace and love.